Welcome everyone back to the channel. My name is Devin and today we're talking about the new movie, The Pope's Exorcist. I just got back from the theater and I really didn't like this movie. In this video, the first few minutes will be a spoiler-free review and then I'll let you guys know when I get into some spoilers and then we'll talk about the ending, so let's get started. In the movie, there is a terrifying exorcism case that takes place in Spain. Father Amorth has supposedly performed more than 100,000 exorcisms in his lifetime. If you're new to the channel, the way I rate movies is an acronym based on my name, Devin. So starting out with D, it is Devin's rating of the movie, and I gave this a 2 out of 5. It's around a 2 to 2.5 out of 5, or a 4.5 to 5 out of 10. It was not that great of a movie to me. And I love horror movies. I think horror is the best genre, but I've seen so many exorcism movies that just had very similar plots. I know they did a bunch of new stuff in here that I haven't seen before here and there, but I was honestly rooting for the demon more than I was rooting for the church. And the reason I say that is because I was laughing in this movie more than I was scared. The demon was throwing people, but it wasn't really in like a creepy way. The demon was cracking jokes with the priest, and I just didn't feel scared, and that's what I want out of a horror movie. Now, I know there was not a lot of hype around this movie. I know Renfield is out at the same exact time, and I loved Renfield. So if I was to pick between Renfield or The Pope's Exorcist, I would definitely go see Renfield. The second letter of my name, E, is the emotional connection I felt to the characters, and there wasn't really any emotional connection. Like I said, the demon was way more entertaining than anything the priest or the family did in this film. Now, going into my top 3 characters of the movie, starting out at number 3 is Father Tomas. Father Tomas is played by Daniel Zovatto, and I must say his acting was very good in the movie, but I was not a huge fan of his character and just felt like he was there as support, but he does get number 3 because there were not a lot of memorable characters in this film. At number 2, we have Father Gabriele Amorth, played by Russell Crowe. I felt like his acting as well as his character were very good in this movie and one of my favorites. He played the exorcist that was kind of a badass at the same time. He was showing up in his moped or motorcycle, and then he was just drinking whiskey whenever he wanted before and after the exorcist, and I found that pretty funny. And at number 1, some of you may find this surprising, but the number 1 character in this movie was Henry. Apologies if I get this wrong, but he was portrayed by Peter D'Souza Faioni, and I feel like his acting was phenomenal. He definitely was the number 1 character and the number 1 actor in this film. The expressions and emotions of this actor were phenomenal. He basically played a bedridden boy who was possessed the entire movie, and he honestly, when I think about it, barely left the bed. You felt the emotions he was feeling, and that is why he is the number 1 character in this film. The V in Devin stands for value. Is this movie worth watching in theaters? And I would say if you like exorcism movies or horror movies, you may want to give this a shot, but like I said, in between Renfield and The Pope's Exorcist this week, I'm taking Renfield. I say in all my reviews, these are just my opinions. Some of you may absolutely love this movie, but I personally would not spend $15 to go see this movie. Now the I in Devin is this movie predictable and does it take away from the plot? Now the movie is very predictable, and I will say that is one of my negatives of this entire movie. I could have told you what the end of this movie was before it even started. And I don't care if this happens in a horror movie as long as the scariness factor, creepiness factor, and the story is there, but it just was not there for this movie. If you're comparing this movie to a type of Conjuring movie of scariness, Conjuring is like an 8 or a 9, and this was like a 1.5. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 scenes where I was like, that was scary, but the rest of the time I was honestly laughing at some of the scares. And lastly, the N in Devin stands for is it something I've never seen before, and it honestly wasn't. Something that I want more in cinema is to see more horror movies in houses such as The Conjuring, Conjuring 2, Conjuring 3 even. Those are some of my favorite horror movies, and I feel like it is very hard to make a hugely successful exorcism movie anymore. Now that's the end of the spoiler-free review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, click off the video now, give it a like, and come back once you see the movie. Now let's talk about the ending of The Pope's Exorcist. Something I did not like about this movie was how confusing they made things seem. At about 3/4 into the movie, the 2 priests discover catacombs underneath the abbey. It turns out hundreds of years ago, a bunch of priests found out that this was one of the most powerful demons they've ever experienced, and all sacrificed themselves. One of the priests who got possessed by the demon locked himself in the cage and died there. They find all this out from the priest's journal. I feel like the dialogue in this movie was a little off and they explained it so weirdly and confusing. Basically, the demon wanted to try and take over more of the world and get into the Vatican as well as with the Pope. In the underground of the abbey, they are able to find, I believe it was in that same journal or another book, the name of the demon. The demon's name was Asmodeus. The two priests then share a very heartwarming moment when they talk about the horrors of their past. Something that has always bothered Father Tomas was that he left the love of his life, but this was because of his devotion to God. Father Amorth also had a lot of guilt being the only one to survive out of his friends in the war. He also had more guilt about Rosaria, who was a woman who he couldn't save. He wanted to be more than just an exorcist and wanted to save her from her mental health, but the church would not really let her, and then she took her own life. This continuously haunts him throughout the movie, and the demon uses this against him. When they get back up from the catacombs, the family has been terrorized by the demon. The daughter's in her closet, the mom was in her bed, pushed down by a hand, and this was one of the creepier scenes in the movie. That was like the one horror aspect that I really liked from the movie, but everything else kind of fell flat. In the final exorcism, on top of taking over the brother, the demon takes over the sister as well. The exorcist Father Amorth is able to take the demon out of the boy's body, but it takes over his body instead. He then orders the family to get out of there, and after the demon takes over Father Gabriele, he tries to hang himself in the house, but the demon does not allow it because he wants him to get back to the church or the Vatican. The demon needs to get the power of the Vatican by going down into the catacombs once again, so that's where they go. Father Tomas, who dropped the family off in the car, comes back and they have a fight with the demon in the catacombs. Now this movie reminded me a little bit of Pennywise the Clown in this scene. The demon rises up from the water dressed looking like Mother Mary, but it's actually Rosaria, the biggest fear of Father Gabriele. When Father Tomas arrives, a casket breaks open and his ex-lover comes out and is covered in blood and attacks him. Just like Pennywise the Clown, the demon uses the fears of those who are trying to defeat him against him. Earlier on in the movie, Father Gabriele told Father Tomas some Latin phrases that would help, and Father Tomas ends up saving the day, and this was a little bit too easy for me. I thought the most powerful demon in the world would not be able to get taken over by Father Tomas, who had just learned a few Latin phrases and knew nothing about exorcisms. So in the end, they are able to send the demon back to hell pretty easily, which for the world's most powerful demon seemed like pretty light work. Father Gabriele was doubted earlier on in the movie by other members of the Vatican, but in the end, he goes back and is welcomed with open arms. One of the members who was being a jerk to him basically took a sabbatical in Guam, which was very interesting. But yeah, I didn't really like the movie that much. The bishop takes them on a tour and there's a bunch of research being done on the demons, and they're given almost like a Sherlock Holmes exit where they are going to investigate more demons and exorcisms in the future. So it could be a possible sequel. I kind of hope not. The movie I felt was very much all over the place, not scary, and that is my review of The Pope's Exorcist. I know I am a little harsh in this one, but I do take horror movies very serious. But you may absolutely love this movie. I just did not like it that much. So let me know in the comments, what did you think of The Pope's Exorcist? I respond to all comments and would love to talk more about the movie in the comments. Thanks for watching today's video. I cover almost every single new movie that is in theaters. Subscribe for more videos like this. I post YouTube shorts every day with movie facts, and I'll see you guys in the next video.